Hello, my name is Dee Ross Kalman. I'm a sixth grade math teacher in New Jersey, and I'm here to talk to you today about the flipped classroom. I'd like to start off with the definition, and I'd also like to start off just noting that often in this introduction, I compare the traditional classroom to the flipped classroom. The traditional classroom does start off with some assumptions of a lecturing format. This naturally does not apply to every classroom, so I'd just like to start off with that little disclaimer of that generalization. So this definition of the flipped classroom model states that the flipped model encompasses any use of using internet technology to leverage the learning in your classroom. So you spend more time interacting with students instead of lecturing. This is most commonly being done using teacher-created videos that the students view outside of class time. Other words for the flipped classroom are the backwards classroom, reverse instruction, flipping the classroom, and reverse teaching. Who's the big cheese? These two guys are Aaron Sams and Jonathan Bergman. Their journey started in 2007, and there are two chemistry teachers from Woodland Park, Colorado, and they had an issue of student absenteeism in their high school, and these students were falling more and more behind. So to help those students, they started posting their PowerPoint presentations with verbal explanation. They would record it and they started posting them on YouTube for the students who were absent. Before you know it, the online lectures were spreading and students all across the country were accessing them. And the flipped model was born. And I like that it was such an organic process. They didn't plan for this to happen, but this is what happened. And then before you knew it, they were asked to speak with other teachers in the country about this method. They began to use these online videos regularly and do the application aspect in the class. This is what the flipped classroom looks like. And like I said, it does assume some generalizations, but the traditional classroom, the teacher's role is essentially sage on stage. The teacher's speaking and the students are listening. It's one-way dialogue. In the flipped classroom, the teacher's role is guide on the side. Two-way dialogue is happening in the classroom. And the students are owning their own learning, and the teacher is circulating, answering questions, prompting kids, making sure the kids are staying on task, and differentiating the practice. The flipped model, teaching to all. And this is a slide that I fully endorse. This is my personal experience with flipping, is that when I construct a traditional classroom lesson, I'm thinking of the middle learners. I'm pacing the lesson with the middle learners in mind. They are the ones who are engaged. My struggling learners need me to slow down, they need more examples, and they might have questions and they might not be very comfortable asking those questions. The advanced learners are bored. Boredom quickly sets in early on in the lesson. In a flipped classroom, it's very different. The middle learners will watch the lesson at home and they'll repeat maybe at home if needed. The struggling learners, when they're at home, they'll watch several times. They'll stop and take notes. They'll jot down their questions with ease and without that social stigma. And there you will get their answers to the questions before the start of the application process the next day in class. It's a much less stressful process for the struggling learners. And the advanced learners love it because they're finally being challenged. They quickly can demonstrate understanding with the material, and then when they get to class the next day, they'll get advanced work. The Socratic method is the heart of the flipped model. A lot of teachers can quickly assume that perhaps the heart of the flipped model is the fancy videos or the assessment piece, and it's actually the differentiated practice, the higher level thinking, questioning, like I said, the practice that's happening in the class the next day after the videos. That is the heart of the flipped model. And the Socratic method is where it's at. And there's a wonderful sense of student engagement. And I call it the buzz, that so many students are engaged and so many students are given different work that they're not concerned that their work is different or easier or harder. They're just involved and engaged, which is great to see. Some teachers might feel that, oh, I'm really uncomfortable making these videos. My voice sounds silly on a recorder, and there's many things. But if that's preventing you from even trying this approach, I would like you to think of finding videos online, perhaps Khan Academy. There's some textbook videos. A lot of curriculum series have personal tutors built into the textbook, and even on YouTube, that this theory has enough momentum that it is likely that what you're teaching probably is already taught online. So you just need to find it. Research does say to get the most engagement from your students, your videos are ideal, but if that's preventing you from even trying this, then I would find the video online. So there's Mr. Benjamin Bloom. Didn't think you would see him since undergrad. So he's back, and I love this slide because I think this really kind of explains the wonderful part of the flipped classroom versus the traditional classroom. That in a traditional classroom, you're tapping the bottom tiers. That you're doing the remembering, understanding, and applying. You're spending the majority of your class time doing those three, and you're leaving the upper tiers for homework, where the students where you're not there to answer their questions. In the flipped classroom, you're doing the lower three at home through the video instruction, and then you're spending the majority of your class time on analyzing, evaluating, and creating. The retention pyramid, that as a teacher, and I'm sure all the teachers in New Jersey feel this pinch, that we're asked to teach more and more and more each year. With the new content standards are released, we have to get more lessons into our school year than ever before, and we need the biggest bang for our buck. We need to really value our classroom time. We don't have time to teach the same lesson 3 or 4 times. So these retention rates are really what we have to strive for, that if we're going to teach something, we truly don't have the time to tap these little retention rates. That 5, 10, 20% isn't going to cut it. That if we can tap 50, 75, and 90, that would be much better. The homework battle. This is where I see the biggest difference in the homework battle, and especially with our struggling learners. That in the traditional approach, perhaps students might be assigned 20 math problems. They'll struggle throughout all 20. They'll ask parents for help. The family frustrations might increase. They might start to feel negative towards school or that particular subject, or just his or her overall abilities in general. Parents might seek out a tutor, which can cause financial stress. And this pattern is repeated night after night. The homework from the flipped approach. Students are assigned a flipped lesson where they'll watch a 5-minute video and they'll complete an online worksheet of about 7 questions. It's really not meant to be a whole lot. This might take them 15 minutes. They'll watch the video, sometimes with a parent. No longer as math teachers will we hear that, oh, I learned math differently when I was in 6th grade. I hear that all the time. And they're going to see how you taught their student because they can sit by their side. Since the parent is present to learn the skill, they can help them with their homework. If there's any questions, there's a question field at the bottom of the worksheet. So throughout the video, they can pause the video and type in the questions. The next day, the teacher will know before the student even enters if they had any questions. And based on grading those 7 questions that they had, you'll know if they got a 0 out of 7, you'll know that you need to spend a lot of time with them the next day in class. The goal isn't for them to completely grasp the lesson through this online piece. It's the application process the next day. The benefits of the flipped model, you can take a look at this slide. I'm not going to read through, but this talks about the benefits from the student perspective and the teaching perspective. All right, at this point, high five. You are good to go with the introduction. You can move on to the Google form. Remember, throughout the Google form, you can feel free to rewind and rewatch any part of this video. Good luck.